guys? EJ here, back with another video, and today it's going to be my weekly movie review roundup, episode 16 and 17. Yes, I'm doing a double episode because last week I wasn't able to make this video that I normally do. So obviously I have to talk about the movies I've seen over the past couple of weeks. 8 movies in total. So I wanted to make this video today and call it a double episode, episode 16 and 17. So yeah, I got 8 films to talk about. Some good movies in here, that's for sure. So starting off Tuesday, March 15th, I watched Steve Jobs. Directed by Danny Boyle and written by Aaron Sorkin. Terrific script, of course. Michael Fassbender, terrific as Steve Jobs, the iconic figure behind Apple through the 80s and 90s and 2000s before his death, of course. The film takes place in sort of 3 segments, sort of 30-40 minutes before 3 major launches by Steve Jobs. The first is like in 1984 when Apple launched the Macintosh computer, which was a big failure and led to Steve Jobs getting fired. And then in 1988 he launches sort of a rival company, a rival computer called like Next or something, like this black box, black cube, which was a failure for him, but it basically got him back into Apple because they had stagnated and they needed his genius and his resources to come back. And then later on in 2003, the launch of the iMac computer as well. So yeah, the film basically Steve Jobs getting ready for all these product launches, being handled by his handler, played by Kate Winslet, who's really wonderful in the movie. The two of them, great riffs between the two of them. Most of the movie he spends arguing with his wife about money and their daughter. His wife, Chrisanne, played by Catherine Watterson. Seth Rogen's terrific as Steve Wozniak, who all he wants is for Steve to recognize the accomplishments of the Apple II team. The Apple II basically put Apple on the map, and Steve Jobs just won't do it. So there's lots of great dialogue between the two of them. Jeff Daniels is really terrific, as well as the CEO John Scully, and Michael Stuhlbarg, very good, as well as Andy Hertzfeld, sort of the lead engineer, if you like. Really terrific cast. I will say it is kind of one note because it's sort of 3 segments and they all feel very familiar. But Michael Fassbender, Kate Winslet, Seth Rogen, all terrific. Steve Jobs, really good movie. I gave a 8 out of 10. Okay, moving on to Wednesday, March 16th. I watched Trumbo, directed by Jay Roach, and of course starring Bryan Cranston as Dalton Trumbo, a screenwriter in 1947 at the top of his game, but he was a well-known and registered communist, and of course he and a bunch of other Hollywood screenwriters, producers and so on became the Hollywood 10 as they were forced to testify in front of the HUAC committee in Congress. Of course, the anti-communism movement led by Senator Joseph McCarthy in the 50s. All these guys, they went to jail, and then they got blacklisted from Hollywood. Weren't able to write under their own names and make a living. Bryan Cranston, wonderful as Trumbo, just this great writer who didn't get recognized right away for his accomplishments. He has to write these screenplays under pseudonyms. A couple he won Academy Awards for, and other people had to accept them for him. One was for Rome and the Holiday in 1953, and then The Brave One in 1957. But eventually he would have worked for Kirk Douglas, who was the executive producer on Spartacus from 1960, which of course was directed by Steven Spielberg, Stanley Kubrick. So basically, Kirk Douglas had all the power because he was the exec producer on that film, and he basically hired Trumbo and was willing to put his name on it, and that sort of put an end to the whole Blacklist era. 10 years, very dark period for a lot of people in Hollywood. Yeah, terrific cast. Louis C.K., the comedian, he's one of the blacklisted writers as well. Uh, Helen Mirren, terrific as Hedda Hopper, the sort of Hollywood gossip columnist who is sort of hell bent with the guy who plays John Wayne, who's really good as well. David James Elliott, really good as John Wayne, as people sort of trying to put an end to commies in Hollywood. Diane Lane, terrific as Bryan Cranston's wife, Trumbo's wife. John Goodman, terrific as a schlocky producer who hires Trumbo to write all these screenplays for all these bad movies while he was on the blacklist. Michael Stuhlbarg is in the movie as well, terrific as Edward G. Robinson. The guy who plays Kirk Douglas was really good as well. I don't know his name offhand. But yeah, it was a really great movie about old Hollywood, a dark period in Hollywood. Really terrific fun. Elle Fanning was really good as Trumbo's daughter as well. Yeah, just a great movie about movies, about about the blacklist and screenwriters. Terrific cast led by a great performance by Bryan Cranston. So Trumbo, I gave an 8 out of 10 as well. Alright guys, moving on to March 17th, Thursday of that week, I watched Carol. Um, yeah, a film directed by Todd Haynes, starring Cate Blanchett and Rooney Mara. Takes place in early 1950s, like 1951. Cate Blanchett plays a sort of wealthy socialite who's on the outs with her husband, played by Carl Chandler. Um, one day while she's Christmas shopping, she runs into a shop girl at a department store, played by Rooney Mara, and she takes a excuse me, takes a liking to the younger Rooney Mara, and they develop a friendship which eventually would turn into a romantic relationship. So this film sort of very subtle but very thoughtful look at lesbian relationships in the 1950s. All the while, Cate Blanchett is arguing with her husband about the custody of their child, their daughter. But yeah, it's a beautiful film. Great performances by Cate Blanchett, especially, and Rooney Mara. They basically go on a trip together, drive across country, and there's a really pretty intimate and pretty sexy love scene between the two of them in a motel that's pretty good. But yeah, really good film. Really great looking movie. Very sort of soulful, sad score, which is terrific. But yeah, terrific performances by Cate Blanchett and Rooney Mara. So Carol, I gave a 8 out of 10 as well. Okay, moving on to Saturday, the 19th. I watched Love the Coopers. Yeah, Christmas dramatic comedy, if you like. Romantic comedy directed by Jesse Nelson, starring Diane Keaton and John Goodman. The two of them play a married couple who are about to announce that they're separating to the rest of their family. The film takes place over Christmas Eve. It's one of these movies where it's a bunch of different varying storylines, all involving certain parts of family, and then they all get together for Christmas. The only type of movie that Diane Keaton even stars in anymore, to be honest. But yeah, the rest of the family, the people are played by Ed Helms plays one of the sons. What's her name? Alex Borstein plays his wife. Olivia Wilde plays Diane Keaton's daughter. She picks up some guy, some military man, a guy in the army in the airport. She's a big disappointment, she thinks, to her family, so she doesn't want to come home for Christmas without a boyfriend. So she basically coerces this poor military guy to pretend to be her boyfriend. Marissa Tomei plays Diane Keaton's sister, who's basically broke, and she gets caught shoplifting at the beginning of the movie, and she basically spends the whole film riding around in a police car driven by Anthony Mackie. So that whole sequence of events is kind of odd. And then you have Amanda Seyfried. She plays a waitress in a diner, and the grandfather, the father of this family, is played by Alan Arkin. He frequents this diner every day just so he can hang out with Amanda Seyfried, and he's all pissed that she's leaving. It's her last day of work. So all these stories sort of come together at family Christmas dinner on Christmas Eve. There's a lot of bickering and fighting, and all the while the film's narrated by Steve Martin, who does the voice of Rags, the family dog. It's your typical, like I said, dramatic romantic comedy Christmas movie, sort of like The Family Stone or Love Actually. Not as good as either of those films. But yeah, like I said, Diane Keaton, that's pretty much the only role she plays at the moment. I like John Goodman. He was good as the father, sort of a different role for him. Yeah, and Olivia Wilde was absolutely wonderful. She's always great. And I liked Alan Arkin and Amanda Seyfried. But overall, kind of average at best. So, Love the Coopers, I gave a 6 out of 10. Alright guys, moving on to this week. We have on Tuesday, March 22nd, I watched Spotlight, directed by Tom McCarthy, of course, this year's winner for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. Yeah, great film based on a true story about how the Boston Globe Spotlight team uncovered the massive cover-up in Massachusetts about the Catholic Archdiocese covering up the fact that almost 80 priests had been accused of molesting young kids around Massachusetts. Yeah, terrific film, of course, great cast. Yeah, Spotlight team headed by Michael Keaton, Mark Ruffalo, who probably was my favorite performance in the movie. Rachel McAdams, terrific as well. Yeah, just the Liev Schreiber. He's basically becomes the new editor of the Boston Globe, and he moves up from Miami. And his first big story that he's going to run is this massive cover-up, brought to light so many issues within the Catholic Church, of course, that they've been trying to hide since the late 1960s. Yeah, terrific film, great drama, terrific script. Yeah, just a great overall movie. Stanley Tucci was good as well in it. Yeah, just terrific film, Spotlight. I will say there's no real big surprise here. It's priests molested kids, so we're gonna investigate it. They all did it. The church knew about it. The end. That's basically the whole movie. But of course, there's a lot more to it than that. But yeah, it's a terrific film. I just didn't think it was the best film of the year. I thought The Revenant was better. I thought The Martian was better. I thought Bridge of Spies was better. But it's still a great movie. So Spotlight, I gave a 8 out of 10. Okay, moving on to March 23rd, Wednesday. I watched The Hunger Games, Mockingjay-Part 2, directed by Francis Lawrence, and of course starring Jennifer Lawrence as Katniss Everdeen in the final installment of the Hunger Games franchise. Yeah, I've enjoyed the Hunger Games movies as a whole, but I will say, in my opinion, this was the weakest one of all four. I've liked the other three movies more than this movie. yeah, so we have the epic conclusion of Katniss leading the alliance of the I guess 12, 13 districts against the capital in Panem, taking on the evil Donald Sutherland. Yeah, at this point it's full out war. Basically, terrific cast. People like Josh Hutcherson, Liam Hemsworth, Elizabeth Banks, Woody Harrelson. I think it was a digitized version of Philip Seymour Hoffman who appears in a couple scenes. Julianne Moore as the leader of the Rebel Alliance, if you like. Yeah, not as I thought the third movie was probably the best of the bunch. The ending's interesting. There's a cool moment at the end. But yeah, The Hunger Games, good movies, good franchise. I just thought out of the four, this is probably my least favorite. The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2, I gave a 7 out of 10. Alright, moving on to Thursday, March 24th, I watched The Good Dinosaur, the latest from Pixar Animated Studios. Yeah, the film takes place in a world where the asteroid did not hit the Earth and kill off all the dinosaurs. So dinosaurs are living with humans, and a like young brontosaurus called Hugo, loses his parents, and it's all the fault of a little like baby boy. Um, the animation is decent in this film, but the story really lacked a lot. And to be honest, it pretty much put me to sleep. I was not impressed with The Good Dinosaur. Probably the weakest Pixar film I've seen, to be honest, and that's worse than Cars, or Cars 2 if you like. Yeah, I wasn't really impressed with The Good Dinosaur, and I pretty much dozed off through the second half. It really did put me to sleep. So I was not impressed with The Good Dinosaur, so I gave it a 6 out of 10, which is being generous, to be honest. Okay, moving on to the final film of the last couple weeks, which I watched last night, um, March 26th, and that was Grandma, written and directed by Paul Weitz. I think that's right. Yeah, starring Lily Tomlin, who plays an elderly woman who, at the beginning of the movie, she's a poet, but we see her breaking up with her girlfriend, played by Judy Greer. So, right off the bat, I'm not buying that Judy Greer is going out with Lily Tomlin. Anyway, she's a mean old lady, and her granddaughter comes around, Sage, played by Julia Garner, and she's pregnant and she needs money for an abortion. So most of the movie is Lily Tomlin going around asking her acquaintances, her friends, for money for her granddaughter's abortion. Most of the time, she's yelling at people, calling everybody assholes, that kind of stuff. It's a short film, like only 80 minutes, which I was thankful for because I did not care for this movie at all. I did not like the characters. I mean, Lily Tomlin gives a fairly decent performance, but I just hated the characters right off the bat, pretty much. I've always liked Judy Greer, so I was kind of disappointed that she was in this. Marcia Gay Harden plays the mother, um, the daughter of the grandma and the mother of the granddaughter. Um, yeah, people like Elizabeth Pena shows up in the movie. Sam Elliott, even his scene's actually pretty good with that great voice of his. But yeah, Grandma, I did not like at all. So I gave it a 5 out of 10. So those are the 8 films I watched over the past couple weeks. Sorry about the delay in the videos. So I combined the two this week. Hopefully this week, well, next week I'll be able to make a video regularly and not have to do like 8 movies at once. So let me know what you think if you've seen all these movies. Some good movies in there, obviously, with Steve Jobs and Spotlight, Trumbo, Carol, all terrific films. So yeah, thank you for watching as always, and until next time, I'll see ya.
Bond. James Bond.